call the roll, please.
Council President Schilling,
Here.
Councillor Briggs,
Here.
Councillor Collins,
Present.
Councillor Fitzgerald,
Here.
Councillor Jantz,
Here.
Councillor Shane,
Here.
Councillor Verdon.
Here.
Thank you. Please join me in pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I'd like to read this to you. It's a little bit of repetition from the earlier meeting, but I still want to get it on the record. The Dallas City Council, during a town hall style meeting, heard from two candidates who applied to fill the vacancies on the council. These two candidates also submitted written answers to questions posed by the council, which were provided to the council during March 6th work session meeting. The next step in the process is to vote by ballot to determine whether either candidate will fill the vacancies. Because there are two candidates for two vacant seats, staff has prepared a ballot with both the candidates' names and check boxes next to those names stating yes and no. Each city councilor will mark one of the boxes for each candidate. The assistant city manager will collect the ballots and announce the results. If a candidate receives 5 yes votes, that candidate will be appointed to one of the vacant seats and will be immediately sworn into office. So now I turn this over to Emily.
So we've all should have been given a ballot, and there are both candidates' names with a yes and a no for each candidate. So you're required to vote for each candidate, yes or a no. A yes vote is yes, you want that candidate to serve on the city council. A no vote is no, you do not want that candidate to serve on the city council. So each councilor will vote for each candidate, yes or no. And as the mayor said, a candidate that receives 5 yes votes will be appointed to the city council and will be sworn in right away. And if there's a candidate that does not receive 5 yes votes, then that vacancy will remain and the council will have to decide the next steps of the process.
Okay, so I will read the ballots out loud. Kim, you're recording the results. Councillor Fitzgerald said yes to Nancy Adams and Carlos Barrientos. Councillor Jantz cast the following, yes for Nancy Adams and yes for Carlos Barrientos. Councillor Briggs said yes to Nancy Adams and yes to Carlos Barrientos. Councillor Schilling said yes to Nancy Adams and yes to Carlos Barrientos. Councillor Collins said yes to Nancy Adams and yes to Carlos Barrientos. Councillor Verdon said yes to Nancy Adams and yes to Carlos Barrientos. And Councillor Shane said yes to Nancy Adams and yes to Carlos Barrientos.
Congratulations.
So the next step is to have Carlos and Nancy come up to the front here, and Emily will swear both of you in at the same time, and then you can take your seats here at the dais.
Can I say something?
Yes, Councilor Shane.
Just because I want this on the record, I want to state it during this meeting also, as I did in the previous meeting. We went through a long and arduous process. We are very pleased with the two candidates that made it all the way through and all the answers that they did to our questions, both verbally and then the written questions. And we are very honored to have both of you aboard as soon as you're ready. Sworn in. Thank you.
And before you swear them in, I see there's some photographers here. You're welcome to come stand in the middle of the area here, where you can get a front shot of both of them instead of pictures from the back side.
And I'll let you two just stand this way because then we'll get you on the camera. So raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Carlos Barrientos, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States and the state of Oregon,
of the United States and the state of Oregon,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Dallas,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Dallas,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my abilities,
faithfully discharge my duties as city council member
faithfully discharge my duties as a city council member
during my continuance therein, so help me God.
During my continuance therein, so help me God.
Excellent. So Nancy, we'll have you sit next to Kim here, and Carlos, your seat will be right here.
I waited too late to back out.
Nice, David. Right about.
Well, I figured the guy deserves to know, you know.
Retrieving their personal belongings. So it's nice to have a full house again. So we'll move on. Introductions, recognitions, proclamations.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. So we do have one introduction tonight, and I will invite Interim Chief, Fire Chief Dickerson to the front to introduce his authority. That was a mouthful.
Councilors, Mayor, I would like to introduce Brian Nordak. He came to us from North Lincoln. I told him to prepare a 15-minute speech and then shorten up into a quick. So
Right. My name is Brian Nordak. I grew up in Lincoln City, Oregon. I started my fire service in 2008 with North Lincoln Fire and Rescue. I was a volunteer / paid guy there all the way up until December when I resigned to pursue my further career here at Dallas as captain. Long history of just serving the community I grew up in. Obviously, I moved out here about 6 months ago. My wife wanted to get out of the Coast Range, and so it was a little bit closer home and, pursuing my career, advancing it through becoming a captain. So many years of conflagration experience, and I ran the water rescue team in Lincoln City. So I have some leadership ability under my knowledge under my. So
welcome aboard.
thank you.
Thank you. No public hearings, no any public comment? Is there anybody online that wants to comment?
No.
Next is the consent agenda, and it consists of the approved February 21st, 2023 City Council meeting minutes, approved the February 23, 2023 City Council candidate forum minutes, approved February 27, 2023 Public Works Committee meeting minutes, the approved the February 27, 2023 Public Safety Committee meeting minutes, and the city attorney agreement modifications. Is there any things you would withdraw from the consent agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously. Reports or comments from the mayor and the council members. We all talked out? Okay. Reports, comments from the mayor or council members, we did that. Reports from city manager and staff.
Yeah, so I don't have any, staff reports today, but I do have just 2 quick things to note. One, with Councilor Adams being appointed to the city council today, she has to forfeit a couple of positions that she's on. One is the budget committee, but she will be welcome back to the budget committee as a city council member. So that's exciting. The other one is she currently serves as a member of the Urban Renewal District Advisory Committee for the downtown. And by resolution of the agency, she's not able to serve both as a city councilor and as that committee member, so she'll have to forfeit that position, which she knows. So you don't have to go to the meeting tomorrow night, which is excellent. But that does create a vacancy on that committee. You do have one application that has been submitted that we have on file for that position. And so the question for the agency, but I'll ask of the council since you are the agency at the agency meeting, is what do you want us to do? Do you want us to bring the one application to you as an agency, or would you like me to do a solicitation to see if there's interest for other committee members? We have not done a solicitation on that because we didn't have any openings with all the other committees that we just appointed. And so we haven't tested the waters to see if there's other interested applicants.
Larry.
I would definitely like to cast a wide net and see if there's any other interest, since that's kind of been going under the radar.
Yes.
All right, then I'll go ahead and push that out.
Michael.
And I also want to bring up at this time that I know in the past, council has kind of wanted to make sure that we don't put the same people on every single committee. And at that point in time, I believe we had kind of wanted to kind of go towards two different committees appointed. So I don't know where our memberships are. As far as I know, we have some people that are serving more on two, but we'd kind of like to have, and I'm going out to the public, we'd like more people involved so that we can hear more voices, because just hearing the voices of a few people, then we are very narrow-sighted.
Yeah, I don't know if we have, I don't know if we have anyone that's serving on two. We
No.
can do a few
No.
that are two.
No,
And so, what I can do is at our next council meeting on the 20th, I will bring the report, that we can, maybe it's a resolution meeting, to limit the number of committees that an individual can serve on to two for the city. Is that made by resolution?
Yeah, you could make that a policy
Or
of
a
this
policy?
council,
this
yeah,
council,
yeah.
So we'll figure out how to do that. We'll bring that to you for the next meeting for your discussion and decision on that.
Is there a place that we could go to get that information, or
I
is
have
it,
that, and I'll get it to you by next meeting.
you have that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, 'cause you should know who you've got appointed.
Right.
Right now, you can also go to the city website and look at all the different committees and give that, but Mayor would just put it all into one simple document.
Kristen.
Which position, the budget position we just talked about, or the ERDAC position, which one were we just talking
So the ERDAC is where you have an active application. So there's one candidate that is filed for that already. And so we'll cast a net to get other applications.
Okay.
The budget committee, we now with Nancy joining the council have 5 vacancies on the budget committee. We're actively shoving applications in front of people and saying, sign this, so that we can get 5 more members of our community on that committee. We have a deadline of March 24th to get those applications turned in. We know of at least 2 or 3 that are seriously considering individually those applications, I believe. So there's a few more that we still need. So if you know of someone that wants to serve on the budget committee, certainly direct them to get the application form off the city website. Have them at City Hall, we can do this work.
Yes.
I have been approached by some people recently who live on Hawthorne, and they're not in the city. So I know there's some committees that allow for non-city residents. Could you list those for us when
That's
you?
right, so, it's easier.
Budget committee's not one. Right,
Yeah,
there has to be a
It's
resolution.
easier to list those that are not, you can have not be
I think
elected.
there's 2, isn't there?
So there's the Economic Development Commission, ERDAC, and the Library Board. And I believe two positions on the Parks and Rec, or the Parks Advisory Board. So there's 2 positions on the Parks Advisory Board, Economic Development Commission, ERDAC, and I believe the Library Board is also non-resident.
And the one Nancy's vacating is
Is the ERDAC.
ERDAC.
Yes.
So it is,
So if you have a non-Dallas resident that wants to serve on ERDAC,
Mhm.
they could.
Okay.
They could apply for that. Budget committee has to be a resident.
David.
You said you have one application on file
Yes.
for ERDAC. How old is that application? How long has it been sitting there gathering dust?
I believe we received it the same time we received the solicitations for the other committees, which was at the end of this last calendar year. So it's only 2 or 3 months old.
Okay, so it's not like they haven't been sitting there gathering
Right, it
dust.
hasn't been gathering dust for a year.
I still like
been
it.
relatively
I
recent.
still like it, as Larry says, cast the largest net possible.
Yeah, the budget committee, I've never experienced this in all the years I've been involved, that 5 of the 9 positions are vacant. So we need to see if you know anybody, please ask them.
Yeah.
And today I talked to 2 different people, both asking, one I think will do it, the other one probably not, but. Yes, Kirsten.
Actually, I'd like Nancy to, but can we have just a quick, this is what the budget committee does?
Yeah, do you wanna address that? So the budget committee will meet, practically they'll meet probably 3 or 4 times, a year. Their meetings are concentrated in the months of April and May. They'll meet once for a training in April, on April 17th this year. And then they'll have 2, maybe 3 budget committee meetings where they will review the budget document that's been a proposed budget. So myself as the budget officer will present that budget to the committee. And then they will have, an opportunity to review it. They'll ask questions, they'll hold a public hearing, to take comments, and then they'll really deliberate on how all of the appropriations are laid out. Are they appropriate? Are they not? Should we put more money in certain expense lines, or are our revenues accurate? So they'll consider all aspects of the budget, and then they will, as a budget committee, approve the budget. That approved budget then moves on to the city council, where the city council goes through a similar public hearing process, makes any revisions that they would like to the approved budget, and then they will adopt that budget. So the committee is limited to reviewing that budget, the proposed budget, and approving it. And then they get the next 11 months off and come back in April of next year.
It's actually very rewarding and short-term serve with the city. I find that I learned a lot having that opportunity to actually be chair for the last 3 budgets, I believe. And I'm surprised there are that many spots missing. That's not the issue. So.
It's a very influential committee to be on, and you learn a lot about any organization. If you want to learn, look at their books, how they spend money, how they get money. It's a really valuable committee to learn how the city functions.
Yeah, I have to say that the city of Dallas does an excellent work with that. They work really hard and have matched many of the needs that the budget committee has asked, especially in the last year or two, to make it easier, a little more succinct, and so we're not having to jump from that. So it's budget.
David.
Somebody, I'm not sure if it was you or Nancy, but somebody just mentioned in passing a very important point, which is in terms of our trying to get people to participate. Of all the committees you can serve on, of all the volunteer jobs that exist in this building, this is probably the one that requires the smallest amount of personal commitment, because it's all done in 60 days. It's not a year-round job. It's not a huge, there's homework and you're expected to do it and know it, and study the material, but it's a basically a short-term commitment, and that's a point maybe worth stressing when we talk to people who are a little on the fence about whether how involved they want to get.
I've told people it's probably the easiest one you can get involved with.
Yeah.
3 to 4 meetings and that's it.
Yeah.
You can read your own personal time, but it's an easy one to do.
And it's all true about the insight it gives you into how state government works.
So as councilors, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to your friends and colleagues that are residents of the city of Dallas, and again, put that application in front of them and say, hey, you really need this. But again, we have 5 positions. There's a couple leads we have, but we need at least 5 applicants. And again, March 24th is the deadline to turn those in.
How are we recruiting for those at this time? What's that look like?
So we put a couple ads in the paper for the budget committee. We have it on our website. We put it out to our social media channels. We have applications in the city offices to just, here you go, take it. Not getting a lot of interest. So I just put front page of our city newsletter. Encourages people again to get involved with the budget committee and try to put a friendly light on it. A few meetings, big impact. Please volunteer.
Kind of like finding lifeguards.
Kind of like finding lifeguards. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more successful. So if I can jump off of that topic to another one, which is similar. A few meetings ago, you authorized us to move forward with a city charter amendment committee process. I have a volunteer application form. We customized it from our community interest form, or our committee interest form. This is one that I don't feel needs as much advertisement because it's a very small committee. There's only 3 members total. 3 members that are not elected officials. So the direction was a committee of 6, 3 elected officials, 3 non-elected officials. So I have application forms here, and unless you tell me otherwise, I would just encourage you to pick up some application forms and take them to people that you feel would serve well in the charter amendment review committee, and just direct, solicit some volunteers for that. This application is due a week later than the last one. It's due March 31st, and hopefully we'll be able to get some volunteers to serve on that committee. The timeline for starting the meetings is in May, and this committee will meet twice a month.
Is there
About,
something,
but it's 6 to 9 month
is
period.
there something you can give us that explains what the responsibilities are? Just a little brief snippet?
I can do that.
We can just hand it out to people,
Is it on the web?
what it pays.
This is not yet on the web, but it can be. So let me, I will hold these. I will put some in your boxes with that that kind of cover letter about what this process is, why you're doing it. But it's really an opportunity to be, a founder of your community because you're renewing and revising the constitution of your city.
It's important. It's very important.
Last time we did this, every counselor was asked to turn in 2 names. We turned in 2 names and then the staff picked the committee out of the 2 names. So there's 14 people. So they had a good turnout and it went very well, but this one is a little smaller and it's still tough to get volunteers. And we'll take your pay and give it to these people.
That's fine. Give them double.
So I'll go ahead and write up that cover letter for it, and it will be on the website. And so it's a place where you can direct people to as well. And then I'll put copies of these in your boxes that you can come pick up anytime and distribute them by hand.
Yeah.
Just again, in passing, we did really just a minor facelift of the charter about 10 years ago. And that's really all it was. But the charter that determines the structure of government here, how many councilors there are, and numerous other things. Basically, we're operating with a charter that's more than 60 years old. And the world has changed in the last 60 years. So it's more than time that we took a good look at how we're structured and whether it fits the 21st century or not. So this is important, and yeah, we need to do it, and we need people who are committed to do it.
Anything else?
That's it.
No resolutions, no other business. Any other comments? Well, then I'll declare this meeting over with. Thank you.